I started playing them because at first it was just like, oh, this is cool, you know, it's because a lot of them are experimental or short, not really complete games, and they explore gameplay concepts that you don't see touched on in a lot of mainstream games because it's you know, it's more risky to experiment.
I only really got into indie games after Braid came out, and that was like the big indie game. And of course, after that, everyone finally knew what indie games were.
I mean, I originally played them just because they were free, short, and on the internet. And they usually were like really kind of crappy, so you don't even need a good computer to play indie games.
I saw this game for like $5, and then I just like, $5 game, I'm down. And then I bought it, and I was like, oh hey, this is cool. And then I realized that this wasn't built by someone who was like a big company.
You get a hybrid genre of, you know, Pac-Man with Metal Gear Solid, you know, and we get some kind of new gameplay experience out of that. And that was exciting. And that's why I started playing indie games.
Usually a game that was done independently, like on a small budget, small group of people.
But generally to me, it's just people who make something not even really for a financial reward, but just to put it online to make a game.
When a company is known as an indie game company, it usually has to do with the fact that they're not tied to any big studio like EA or Activision.
Well, technically it's just, you know, a game that's independently funded, but I feel like there's a little more to it than that, you know, it's part of the spirit and the heart that goes into it. They're very personal, and it's, since they don't have, you know, backing from a big production company, a big publisher, it's there's more on the line, you know.
It's just their project, they're doing what they want, and they have full control over it.
Games originated originally like not really as a commercial thing, but out of like an educational research thing, and then like there became the games industry, and then, you know, like there was like the first commercial game group, but then there were always people who were like actually making the games on the side on their own.
The PC was really the platform for the original independent games because you could make a PC game and release it, and, you know, Microsoft's not going to tell you, no, you can't make that.
To me, like the indie games that I actually interact with, I guess they've just been around as long as people have had internet on their home computers, you know? Like, if it's something that can display stuff graphically and you can put it online, then that's all you need to make an indie game.
The people that make indie games could be anybody of, you know, differing skill levels. Like, as long as they have the passion to make games.
There's people who know how to program and want to make a game and grew up with games. So it's kind of just like normal people like us, I guess.
Gamers make indie games, you know, their indie games are made by people who are like, I love games, you know, I want to learn how to make them, and then they do, you know, and they go out there on their own.
Or you could have, you know, a guy who he worked at a big AAA publisher, he has a lot of experience, maybe just got laid off or he's tired of it, and so he quits or leaves there and he starts, you know, a startup.
I looked at Braid, I read about it, and I was really impressed that it was made by like, it's just made by one guy. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's insane.
If you are not part of a really big organization that's constraining your creativity, then you are an indie game developer.
If I want something that's intellectually stimulating, or, you know, I want to see something different, or want to think about, you know, new ideas for gameplay, then I'll play an indie game because they're really pushing the boundaries.
I look for games with emergent gameplay, games that are novel, also games with good art direction. That's big to me, being an artist. Just games that have something special that pulls me in.
I'm usually really attracted to the art style. That's what really got me into Journey. But then I really appreciated it for the story that it told without telling anything verbally.
Usually indie games have a message. Like if you take Anthropy's games in particular, they're usually trying to push gender equality and her experiences with
because they don't have the publisher breathing down their neck, saying you can't do this, or that's not going to sell, or this is going to cause too much controversy. You can't have a female character because our statistics say that XYZ, this doesn't sell. That's where indie games really shine, is that they can expand on these issues, they can tackle these controversial issues, kind of without fear.
Most of my friends, even the friends of mine who play games, they don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about indie games.
Some of them don't understand them.
To explain them to people is tough because they usually are just so weird that you sound like you're talking crazy.
Some people are really offended by it, and some people really get it, and they're like, wow, this is really great.
I have a few friends that will play like, some similar games as me, but a lot of my friends will just play like the AAA titles, and it can be hard to get them to play these like little obscure games and stuff, because it's different, and they're not usually the games that everybody's playing and talking about, so they're less driven to play them. But usually when I can get them to play the same stuff as me, they'll enjoy it, or at least take something away from it.
Mainstream games tend to try to appease some kind of corporate backing, where indie games are free from that.
Like mainstream games, you have to make something will sell. You have to make something that has like a very professional story and has been done before. Whereas people who make indie games, they're kind of just making the game they want to play.
In a mainstream game, you come there for just to be like kind of taken on a roller coaster ride, of just high polish, experience. And for an indie game, it's more about the ideas and more about sort of the spirit that goes into it, because they're usually less polished and they usually have bugs and stuff, but it's sort of the intention behind it is what makes it.
There's one thing that describes indie games generally, not always, but more so than any other word, it would be weird, I guess, whereas mainstream games are kind of standard. With
AAA titles, you need to hit the largest audience you can because they cost so much to make, but with indie titles, you can hit a niche market and still be successful.
So you get these experiences that I think appeals to a very specific set of people, but it appeals to them a whole lot. So I think like as there's more people going into making indie games, it's also they're like bringing the audience of people like them who want to play the games that they're making.
I feel like they've become more popular because a big part of it is distribution. Now that digital distribution is available on each of the big three consoles and the Steam is so prevalent, it's a lot easier than it used to be to make a game and then have it on a platform that is visible and that people have access to.
Indie games, I think, are becoming huge on like consoles because the publishers and the consoles see them as like a cheap way to get the rights to publish something and make a ton of money, without actually having to develop something themselves. And they're so much cheaper than like the huge multi-millions of dollars that AAA games are.
Indie games are popular nowadays just because they're different.
Indie games kind of bring a fresh new take on even existing genres, or they create new genres.
I feel like they're important to the industry as a whole because with mainstream titles there's a lot of stagnation because AAA games cost millions and millions of dollars to make, so they don't want to take too many risks at one time, but indie games can sort of, pump blood into the innovation, within the industry and show people ideas and gameplay concepts that might not be introduced otherwise.
Game making and developing for these indie games is really important to me because it gives a place to express myself that other mediums don't exactly fit for me.
indie games are important to me because of their boundary pushing. They expand the types of gaming that we think of, or what we think games are.